There we are. How's that, Doug? Is that better? Now, let me start all over again. I really appreciate the fact that you're doing so here. Thank you, Doug, for the heads up there. As I said in the intro of the piece here, just very briefly, I've done, in addition to Twitch, going Tuesday, Thursdays, and doing live programming work for sketch rendering materials and supply, doing certain things like product design, architecture, and the variety of things we do on the regular stream programs. Now, behind the scenes, I do an awful lot of commission work as well. So I just thought I might kind of change the pace today and let you see the kind of things we do. For example, in the process of putting together commissions, I've been very fortunate to work with a great client base, both here locally, nationally, and across and overseas. About people calling in and dropping an email up about, hey, I've got an idea for a gift. Could you do a certain thing for my relative or an individual, a good friend of mine or whatever? And more than happy to do that. And I've really compiled an awful lot of commission things over the course of the past several years. But this is more recent, over the last 6 to 8 months, no more than a year. And I'd walk you through some things we've done here. I would love to be able to do some of these things on stream, but I'm just concerned about the time factor, because by the time you lay out the drawing and go back into color schemes and so forth, it takes a lot of time. It's a very meticulous process, and I'm not saying that it's difficult. It just takes an awful lot of time, and I don't want to get to a place where people are just kind of yawning away at the fact that, geez, this isn't done yet. And nonetheless, this first one's a very interesting piece of architecture, Doug. It was done for a family here had put together a build order list for a very present 2020 Senna GTR4, extremely elaborate, incredibly powerful looking piece of architecture, vehicle architecture. It's a tracked version of it, and we went through a whole series, a lot of sketches, for example, color schemes in the right view, and before it was all sent to England for direction to build the actually not build the car, but put the livery, the color scheme they wanted to put onto it. So behind the scenes, before we got to this arrival of this very deep indigo blue in the Sunoco paint scheme systems, and by the way, it ended up, for example, that this scheme was very interesting because they wanted to commemorate Roger Penske's 1977 or 76, I think, Indianapolis 500 with Mark Donohue in the Sunoco Special, which is a number 66. That's why you see the graphics on it here. So we kind of honored that, and they finally got to the place where this was the final approach that they wanted to send to England to have the individuals at McLaren put together the final system. I can hear you. Very good, Doug. Thank you. It's interesting that before we got here, as I said, a lot of sketches were done at different perspectives, different views, different color schemes, everything from bright yellows to the papaya orange of McLaren's, some of the yellows, even went to a charcoal, almost like a grigio metallic and yellow accents. But then it came along with the Donohue process, and this is what we finally ended up with in terms of the scheme that went to England. So this is phase one. This is one piece that was started. Here's another piece, for example, a commission piece of a family here in Columbus. Pardon me. There we go. I'm sorry. Family in Columbus that wanted to do a piece of graphics for their father's C4 Corvette. It's a black machine. Put that together, and they wanted to do a little sneak preview too. What was coming in terms of the history of the C8 or the Corvette series, and what was going to look like in the CD8. So there's a little thumbnail sketch up on top of a potential concept sketch of what the present C8 was. This was done about 6 to 8 months ago. So there's a little bit of sneak preview before we came on board with the new introduction of the C8. So, but this is done for that family. Again, a marker pastel piece, very quick and very simple, but at the same time, really deliver the goods for the family in terms of what they wanted to have done for that as a gift, I believe, a birthday gift for their father, who has been a really long time Corvette enthusiast, and they got in touch with me about, gee, could you do, yeah, I'd love to, just send me a photograph and let's see what we can come up with here. So that was a phase two. This is another little study here done for a local individual here in town. This is well before the C8 came out some time ago. Corvette, just a real good Prismacolor pencil sketch. Just a little bit of a dramatic shot here of a little 3/4 front on the tilt. Putting together the C8 in action. Notice the actual intake piece on the body side, some of the graphics and spoiler systems. A little bit of a different fascia graphic here from the original Corvette that's on the road now. But again, another commission piece. This, I believe, was, again, another birthday gift for an enthusiast that someone really kind of picked up on the fact that they wanted to have something done for them. And typically what I do too when I finish up a commission piece is I just go ahead and finish the piece. Either I have it mounted, sometimes they'll ask me to mat and frame them, but nonetheless, this is delivered as is, and this is a copy of the original. They have the original piece. These are all copies, by the way, I'll specify that. And once I finish a piece like this, for any given commission, it stays there. I mean, I don't reproduce it for anything other purpose. Just make sure that they have the only one of a kind, so it's one of a one for them specifically to kind of own or work with. So this, again, another Corvette C8 piece. It's interesting, too. Over the last few months, I've gotten a lot of commission pieces for Corvette work, for especially the C8, because it's such a dramatic departure from where they've been, where we have been in the past with the Corvette architecture. But I'm really pleased to see that taking on the way it is. It's just exciting to work with. What do you think, Doug? Making sense here? I'm glad you can hear me now. Is this coming along okay? This is making sense here. I'm just trying to do as very brief as I can with each one of these pieces that come up. So again, the variety changes everything. Sometimes I've done watercolor. Sometimes I've done just Canson paper work, which is toned surfaces. Sometimes it's just pure pencil, like Prismacolor pencil sketch like this. And while I'm at it, I think that's one of the nice things about this whole process that I really enjoy. I'm a firm believer that a really good pencil sketch is an absolute a joy to behold, because it really challenges you to, especially black and white. You don't have a lot of value to work with in terms of putting it all together. It just really is interesting how a good pencil sketch will tell an awful lot about how you feel about, especially in value settings in black and white. And the other nice thing about this approach in value is it gives you an architecture for putting in color. For example, every time you see darks and lights, that's where if you go to a color, if we did this machine in red, everything you see in almost the paper color would be almost like sky tone, and everything in here, for example, and some of the detail work would actually body color, so it'd be bright reds or variations of red as it went from highlight to shadow. So there's a real good rule for doing a good pencil sketch, and those of you out there who are working on just basic sketch rendering skills, I strongly recommend that you really practice an awful lot on good black and white drawing work, because that gives you a real indication of what the architecture is going to look like when you go to color. Great storyline. So that's another commission piece here. So let me move on here. This is a good a piece of this is the Ferrari Portofino, done for a good friend of mine who's a very big Ferrari collector, not in the city here. He's out of state. He's a California native. Very much a great enthusiast of Ferrari work, and he purchased this Portofino. It's a beautifully high luster silver, graded material, beautiful machine all the way around. And he wanted a piece done with the yellow mirrors and some of the yellow calipers. So that's another thing I should describe too. Each one of these pieces you'll see, 9 times out of 10, they'll send a photograph along about they want a certain piece done in this certain fashion, and here's a color scheme, here's a layout we'd like. In this case, it was just purely a conceptual sketch. Put together the drawing, sent the drawing out there for approval. He said, yeah, this is great, don't change a thing, add this or add that. Can you tweak this or tweak that? So we do all that, and then we finish it up and package it up and send it off to him, and lo and behold, it's somewhere in his office or his study or his home someplace, which to me is a real honor. The more I think about what we do for others, what an honor it is to be able to sit back and have your work go out there to people who really respect the fact that you put together the time and effort into doing some neat stuff for people without not a lot of complaint or bickering. Gosh, you want it done like this. I'm really sensitive to that. I really want to make sure that when someone comes to me and gives me the honor, the opportunity to work with them to do something that will maybe remain in the family for some time, I'm not sure. But that's quite a statement to make, and it's an honor for me to be able to do this. So I'm very careful about how this is done. And while I'm at it too, it's not just this piece that kind of makes the final. That's the summation. There's a lot of sketches that go on behind the scenes here. For example, I'll send out thumbnail sketches. I'll put composition pieces together, and really treat this thing as a really a celebratory piece that it is. And we get great feedback on, yeah, I love the view. Gee, could you do this instead of that? We'd like to add this to it. Could you put my family in it? All these things come together that make it really worthwhile. So for me, it's been a real rich history in terms of getting to know people, getting to know what their likes and dislikes are, and above all else, respecting the fact that what I see in them, they see in me. And I don't want that to be, please don't misunderstand the context of that. Again, it's an honor for me, it's humbling to me to be able to do that for somebody else. And then they look at it and say, gee, we love it. My father, my uncle, my aunt, really love the piece. And to get the feedback on that is more than worth the price of admission. Believe me, it's marvelous. So let's move along here. This is the Portofino. This is a very current, this was done some time ago. A really enthusiast in Pennsylvania got a hold of me and said, boy, you know, I just purchased a Velocity Yellow C7 Z series, and would you put together a nice little concept sketch for me? And I'd like to have this done so I can put it in my office. He's a real estate officer out in Pennsylvania, and a good friend, also, and a very huge Corvette fan. Has more than one in his collection. And we did that also as well. It was just really cool how the whole thing comes together. And this is a commemorative piece done for this gentleman. And really proud to do so. And again, it's marker, a lot of marker pastel, a lot of drawing back into the surface, and a little bit of a pastel background. And of course, the C7 logo as an accent piece up on top there. So this was a pretty massive sketch. And notice again the use of media, very simple. Put the surface of the marker where you need it to go, and then put a little bit of pastel to kind of blend the two together to give it more of a metallic look. And a little bit of realism, and a lot of high contrast graphics. I think that's one thing I really even in my stream programs on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Maybe I don't spend enough time talking about this, but I really should. Maybe future references. There's nothing more powerful than understanding how to work with extreme contrast, lights against darks. That's what makes it work. And I think what makes it function is the fact that the reason you really play up on this idea, this concept of lights and darks, is the high contrast. That's what produces the confidence. The more you push the extremes, the more confident the pieces begin to look, and it looks very anti-laborious. It should look very spontaneous, and it happens just like that. That's the fun part about the whole thing. What do you think, Doug? You like this combination so far? I really appreciate you staying with me here, Doctor. Good to have you on board. So again, another commission piece for a gentleman out in Pennsylvania, a very high-profile Corvette guy, and good to have it done for him. So let's move along here. Here's another little piece here done for LaFerrari. This is, again, marker pastel piece. It's a very simple medium to work with. I mean simple in the sense that it's trite, but it's a very, it's almost a photographic approach to looking at certain systems here and putting together the pieces. But this individual out on the West Coast had purchased this very, very powerfully bright silver LaFerrari, and it was just kind of fun to put it all together for him. And again, sent it out there. And as stated before, a lot of really interesting things in terms of sketches. Is it a 1 point? Should we rotate the view? Should we want more of a dramatic front end? What's the case history here for putting these pieces together? So that's all part of the storyline as well. So again, this is the combination of lots of sketches. Final piece. This again is a copy of the original. The original goes out there, and that becomes his. Just interesting Ferrari. I mean, it just thanks, Doug. It's just fun stuff. Very dramatic, highly graphic. And again, that's the nice thing about putting the pieces together too. A lot of individuals I work with, for example, they expect, and I'm not saying this to be critical, it's a matter of observation, that they see certain things a certain way, and it should be much more metallic, and it shouldn't be so highly contrast and graphics. But from my experience in working with the automobile industry, that's what makes it work. The graphic pattern you work with, for example, into shadow, back to highlight. Those areas are not fabricated. That actually happens on surface work. So I think being very careful to point that out, I think is very, very important. So it's not a matter of just making some of this stuff up, like reflections in some of the actual shadow pieces and some of the contours in the actual form itself. That actually happens on surface work. So I try to create that as more realistic, as much realism as I can into the pieces we're putting together. And let's say really want a much more conceptual look at it, we can deliver that as well. So that's a LaFerrari. Back to Corvette here again, another enthusiast in the state of Florida. A good friend of mine who's a big racing guy. He bought a C7 and really wanted to take more advantage of putting this very simple, like splitter down the front end and some different rims and different graphics and packages, for example, in the rear fascia. Again, just a simple line drawing, just a little bit of pastel involved in it. To get the effect on it. This is a nice technique too, where you actually take the actual graphics of the Corvette and then just do a separate sketch. Fill in the blanks, for example, a little bit of a Corvette color scheme in there, and just rip the paper off and just put that as a wash in there to kind of give you a little bit of a break in the almost like stone or pavement to give a little bit more of a character to it. So this is a very simple sketch, but it really had a lot of effect, and he loved the piece when it was all put together. So that's nice to hear. So no complaints there. Again, another very, very quick. And I would say too, most of the things you're looking at here that work with me as I go through this whole portfolio piece, not all of the stuff I've done, just more recent recently. Sometimes they range in terms of maybe an hour and a half to 2 to 3 hours at the maximum to get done. So I don't spend a lot of time really laboring the color. I think the time is spent in putting together the composition, getting the line drawing set, and then getting it up to scale, and then reproducing it, and then going up from there to public and press. So, and I don't misunderstand, I'm not being braggadocious about the time factor. I just don't really waste a lot of time in terms of getting into color and so forth, because I think the real battle plan is, as I've always said in my stream programs on Tuesday and Thursday, nothing beats a great drawing. If you have a great drawing to work with and the perspective's right, and you've got the contours corrected, everything else falls into place. So the rendering is not a difficult thing. It's the drawing side that takes the time. So here again, another piece. This was done recently here for a gentleman in the state of Ohio who has got a great collection. And this is one of a kind. It's like a modified C4, really a neat machine. It's kind of a dark green with a lot of almost like a really deep green-purple reflection to it. And he wanted a piece done for his son. So I just went ahead and got the photograph from him and kind of modified some of the pieces in the photograph to make it click a little bit for him. Added the logo and just a lot of reflected light into the piece. And again, notice, look at the graphics and the patterns in there. That's what really takes the time to kind of analyze when you go through the sketch rendering or the drawing, or put the footprint together. What it all looks like in terms of how do you place, for example, hard against soft and light against dark. That's all part of the magic of putting these pieces together. And again, we talked about that in those streams on Tuesday and Thursday. Where to place emphasis, where to leave it alone, where to let the sketch breathe, where to put together the fillers, and then let it all become just almost like a living organism. So that's my real intent. Every sketch I do has to have a life or a spark about it that says, man, this really has some content to it. So this was done for a gentleman up in the northern part of the state who wanted to have a piece done for his son. And there it is. And this is another piece done, an individual here in town who purchased a nice Honda. And they wanted a nice kind of a spooky looking shape to a lot of reflection in it, and a little bit of a history of Honda's racing history. Put it into the format here, looking at this 3/4 front of this Honda Civic. It's a coupe variation, a lot of highlight and reflection into it. A very dark and sinister looking machine he had. But he wanted to put a little bit of history behind it also. This was in 1964, was Honda's first entry into Formula One racing, and that's what started this whole process of getting Honda into the business of manufacturing automobiles and perfecting them. And this number 4 Honda, for example, was piloted by in 1965 by Richie Ginther. They gave Honda their first win in Formula One, and that motivated them to go to really kind of push the envelope and get much more dramatic in terms of manufacturing the present fleet, which is really a great, reliable piece of machinery. Great history in that corporation. So this is done for a friend here in town who wanted a piece. His wife contacted me and said, well, he just bought this thing and would love to have a piece to hang in his office. And so there it is, another commissioned piece. There it is for Honda. This is another piece done for another individual here in town. Purchased an old Toyota series, a coupe, and he wanted it done. Again, this was done, I think, for a friend of his who purchased it. Pardon me. But again, he wanted to have his illustration piece done, and looking at again the racing history of a Toyota. This is the LMP1 TS050 concept piece at Le Mans for the Rolex 24 Hours, pardon me. And so I threw a little bit of that into kind of put a relationship of where they were then and where they are now as far as the actual piece itself. So again, very quickly done, but again, a lot of fun, and got great feedback when they received the piece, when they opened it up, that, oh, this is really cool. Nice to hear. So it's good that it all worked out very well like that. There we are. So that's that guy. Let's move along here very quickly. Pretty current piece. It gets into a lot of different things. It's really kind of fun in a sense because it gets into a lot of different things. For example, this was done. The guy is an individual in town who was a very big custom truck guy, and took back an old retro, I think 1969 Chevrolet C10 pickup, and he wanted to have it done. He channeled it, chopped it, and did all that stuff. But he wanted something for his office wall. And so he got in touch with me, and I said, hey, can you put together this package for him? I said, no problem. And he sent me the photographs, a whole variety of photographs. I went through a series of sketches, like we said before, and some of the other pieces we've done, and put together this final piece for him. And he has, again, the original, and just a lot of fun. Again, notice the graphics and getting the chrome, a lot of paper going in, a lot of very different highly reflective chrome surfaces, and keeping it nice and simple, but at the same time, hopefully add enough realism, enough character and personality to the sketch to give it the contact and the impact that it required. So that was that piece done, and now we go back into another piece here. This is a very present, this is an individual out of state. I think he's, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's in Michigan, I believe. He contacted the individual who got in touch with me. This guy, interesting story about this Ram pickup. He bought the pickup and wanted to have it wrapped in this this design punk, or this punk process of camouflaging. It's really it's a wrap. He bought it. It was black. He bought the pickup was black. The Ram was black and metallic, but he wanted this punk camouflaging on it with all the rivet work and so forth, and some of the. This is a really fun program to work with, because how do you get that fade look, for example, with mark? Well, this is all done with pastel. A lot of the graphics, for example, marker pieces and the like, some of the graphics in the glass and the tires, obviously very high contrast graphics. But a lot of the softness you see in here was really done by just kind of patterning in pastel and then adding some of the cut lines and geometry, just erasing things out to make it look more like the design punk look that he was after. So in a moment here, I'll show you another variation that we went through on. This one was a very similar situation. So that was sent out to him. He loved it. And when he saw it, I guess he's a big military guy. So I'll let you see in a minute what's taken place from where we were here with this piece. Again, a lot of sketches done, the right views, going through the process. Do you want that look? Do you want this to be a part of it all? How do you want to review the handles, the front splitters? What's that all going to look like? So a lot of good communication goes on before this stuff is sent out and completed. So here we are with this one. Oh yeah, this is it. So this is where we were. Let's kind of put them side by side. Let's see if we can get them to go side by side. This is where we started, and if I can get this to work a little bit here, I'll see if I can sneak in here just a bit. We sent this out and got it approved, and then he came back with the fact that, it's kind of a neat feel here. He's a big military guy, so let me just get this out of the way. That was the original piece we did right there. He saw it, and about maybe a week ago, I got back in touch with him, and he contacted me and said, listen, I'd like to take this and convert it into my military experiences here with all the badging, like the horse graphics on it. He was a motor pool driver at some point in time, so I've got to add the graphics of that medal on there. A Medal of Honor, a Seaman's badge, a bombing run, the U.S. number 22 was a division. A little bit, just some color accents. We wanted to take it away from just being a design punk look and give it a little bit of military. So that was just recently. I'm just working on getting this approved now to wrap it all up. And again, the same Ram pickup. First shot at it was the punk design piece, and all of a sudden going back and adding the military component to it. This was an interesting one. Just very recently, again, here, going through the process. This is an individual about a week ago came to me and said, hey, my father just purchased a C8. It's a certain, a very strong, bold red. I would love to have it done for him. It's the first one. He's always been a Corvette guy, but it's the first C8 he's purchased here. So this is one we did for him in terms of he wanted a bright red. He wanted a little bit of background. Currently the C8 logo up in the corner. We just wrapped this up for his father's birthday gift coming up at the end of the month. So this is a pretty recent piece we just finished off here. Very interesting approach to it all. And again, sketches were done, reviewed back and forth some of the photographs that he had sent, and the gentleman that I'm doing the work for said, yeah, that's the one we're after. Let's put this thing into a format here and get a nice piece finished. And by the way, this one was done after he saw the original piece. He came back in the office and said, boy, would you be kind enough to go ahead and get this batted and framed for me? I'll be more than happy to do that. Working a good relationship here with a frame station over here in the Dublin area. So we're going to put a nice white mat around it and a nice maybe 2-inch black frame, so he can present that to his father at the end of the month as his birthday gift. And last but not least, I think we're done the last one here. Just for some, yeah, this is it. This is interesting too. This is a very unique, what I refer to as a drop head coupe out of the 30s. Just a very dramatic looking piece of equipment. This is the 1936 Lagonda LG45 Rapide. Very interesting format. I mean, it's a dark British racing green. You can't see it too much on the screen there. Kind of drops it down a little bit. But this is a real elaborate pencil sketch to work with. Again, getting the right view down and putting the right proportion together. Extremely complicated in terms of getting all the little, like the lamping graphics and the reflections in the chrome, the fender flares, making sure they separate well, and the pilot light, and then some of the beautiful feature of this thing is these really neat exhaust patterns that come out of the body side, underneath the vehicle, and so forth. And again, when the top is up, that top actually starts back here, and you see a lot of the door that opens. That top starts about right in through here. It comes up and wraps over the top of this thing. But I thought what was neat about this view was I love the fact that the drop head coupe, or the Spider version of it, was much bolder to look at. So and this is a work in progress now. And what I'm looking at now is maybe adding the Lagonda logo up in the corner, and I'm going to put a nice British estate residence back up through here. So I'll keep you posted on this one as I move along with it, and then hopefully I'll show it again when it's all finished and ready to go. So very interesting set of circumstances here, gang. But I think it was really a bit of a refreshment change for me to kind of stop the presses a little bit and not be so heavy-handed in some of the sketch rendering stuff we're doing. I love doing it. Don't misunderstand. I mean, Tuesday, Thursday, some of the projects we work on, like the G12 process and some of the other things we've been working on, still very, very fascinating to me. But I thought I'd just kind of pull back a little bit. Let you see, there's some finish work that I do, and maybe just from your input, maybe I'll start doing more of it. When I get a commission piece, maybe I'll start the process and show you how that all goes from start to finish. And again, the reason I'm concerned about it is from a stream setup, it takes a lot of time to plot this stuff out and go through some of the staining work. So maybe I'm a little bit too bashful about that, and I'm not shying away from it. I just don't want to really destroy everybody's time frames on the stream process when we're working with it and watching me go through the process. So what do you think, Doug? Should we try maybe doing a commission piece from start to finish so you can see it all starts and how it all ends? I'm a little bit hesitant to do that because I'd rather really become much more productive in terms of putting variations and themes together. But maybe every now and then it'd be a nice change of pace to work with. So what do you think, Doug, if you're still there? So far, so good? Any comments at all so far, Doug, about what you've seen there as far as the cross-sectional work? I really respect your opinion. What do you think? So now a good deal. So I think it's once we're waiting for Doug's response here. I think I might make it a habit out of maybe about once a month, just kind of pulling back and going through a little review on some of the commission pieces I'm doing for individuals. That in fact I'm working on one here. In addition to this guy, I'm working on a piece now for a family that just purchased a residence out in a very exclusive lake area, and they want me to do an illustration of their old home that they sold and a new one. So it changes from issue to issue. So just really interesting to see how it all comes together. Hey, thanks, Doug. So you'd like to see that process happen? I would love to see how you set up an illustration. Yeah, that might be a good thing to do, Doug. I really appreciate the input there because it is a little bit of setup. You go back through, for example, I can maybe start from the square one of getting the commission piece is going to be done by such and such and such. It needs these requirements. Start the sketches and show you the line drawing, and then go right through. And maybe a time frame might be to look at the actual finished line study, and then go back and use that as a base to go and start putting the pieces together here. So, yeah, I think I might put that on the list here to do here, Doug, in the future. So thanks for the input. Really, really helpful. So that wraps it up for the day, gang. I just didn't want to take a lot of time here in terms of belaboring the point about this commission work. I mean, there's a lot more out there. I just picked a cross section of things that might be of interest to you in putting it all together. And this Rapide is what I'm working on now. This LG45 Rapide Lagonda. By the way, interesting note about this machine. Lagonda is a motor car company. Of all things, started in Springfield, Ohio. Isn't that amazing? And the Lagonda name came about as a result of an Indian tribe in the region. They were known as Lagondas. So the individual who started the program in building the automobile decided to name his architectural piece, the vehicle, after the Indian tribe Lagonda. Then it moved on into Europe, into England, and it became very interesting. Hey, Stuart, how are you? Look at that. Yeah, it's just fun, Stuart. How you doing? You just joining us now? I'll go back real briefly here through. So this is all about commission work here, Stuart. So I just wrapped up with this. I'm really in the process now, beginning to finish this up. I'm going to put the Laganda logo back here. There's another commission piece here. The title of today's stream was obviously it was commission work. I just want to change tempo a little bit and show you some of the things I've been working on behind the scenes in addition to the stream work that we do from time to time, Tuesday, Thursday. There's some things that I don't do on the air that I just wanted to show you that I wrapped up with for some client base here. And this is a Laganda LG 45 Rapide, beautiful drop head coupe in the 30s, and just starting to put it all together now. Put a little logo, the Laganda logo back here, and maybe a British estate, and then finish off with a little bit of pastel work. Let me go back through real quickly here for your benefit, Stuart. Let me see if I can get these guys lined up, and we'll just run you through some of the commission pieces very rapidly here. So let me go back here, Stuart. Thank you. First piece done, commission-wise, was a interesting piece for the present McLaren Senna GTR4. So this was sent to England for some paint scheme work for the client that wanted me to work on it. Second one was, again, a Corvette piece for a family here in town that wanted a birthday gift for their family member who'd been a long-time enthusiast. And I'll go real quickly here through it. These are all pieces that were done for commission, assigned by individuals who were nice enough to ask me to do their work for them. I felt that was an honor to be a part of that process. And I thought today would be kind of nice to kind of pull back the screen a little bit and show you what's been going on behind the scenes. So hope this is helpful here, Stuart. I'm going to give you a real quick review. So thanks for hanging on here. Again, no pencil study for an individual, an enthusiast here. Some of the early sketches for the C8. Notice a little bit of a change of pace here with the front end graphics and some of the detail work. But this is a really good pencil sketch in terms of just a real quick commission piece for an individual who wanted to see a little bit of this was done more of an advanced case before the actual, notice a little bit of different front end graphics before the actual production C8 came out. Good friend of mine in California, big Ferrari enthusiast. This is a Portofino I did for him and his family. So that's Portofino. He's very specific in terms of bright silver with a very natural gray interior. Very, very nicely done. Enthusiast here, Pennsylvania guy. One who purchased a C7Z series and wanted to have that done. So I put that piece together for him. And again, all this stuff is original art. And every time I finish something, Stuart, it goes out there, it's original. And that person has one of a kind, so one of a one. So I just want to bring up the speed here. So far, so good, Stuart. We're going too fast. You got her so far? Good to have you on board, by the way. Thank you. Let's see, there we are. Now the next piece here is a little Ferrari piece done for an enthusiast. Again, a very simple, very highly graphic piece, for example. Purchased a LaFerrari, and again, bright silver. And I made a point going through the process throughout today's stream about how this thing became very graphic in terms of, a lot of people don't see that in terms of vehicle architecture. They see it as being very realistic, which is good. But I think from my experience of getting some of the graphics down and being a little bit more forward and assertive with some of the shapes and surface, look at the shadows are very highly crisp. And again, into the soft areas of getting the actual paint scheme to work for us here. So what do you think, Stuart? So far, so good? You give me a chance to respond here, and we'll go down the lineup here. So again, commission for Ferrari. And again, another Corvette piece for an individual. Very simple, bare bones C7. He just wanted to add a front end splitter and some new rims. The unique thing about this one was he wanted a very distinctive little Corvette logo piece, and this is a Tor paper approach we use. We're going to rip the paper apart and put a little bit of pastel on it, and there we are. You've got the finished piece for that. Another commission piece, Corvette. This is done for a gentleman here for his son in the state of Ohio. And he wanted a commemorative piece to give to his son for, whoops, I'm bringing this over here, pardon me. And so it was a very interesting, deep green, very, very almost British racing green with a lot of highly reflective light in it. So that was done very quickly for him. And then an individual here in town that purchased a Honda, and the individual wanted a piece for his office. And it's strange that it was a Honda, but nonetheless, that was his favorite car. He wanted to get the piece of graphics for that. And so I added a little bit of Honda history of, for example, the Formula One machine in 1965. Richie Ginther was the first individual running the Honda 4 Series on the V12 RS272, who won the first Formula One machine in that particular Honda. So that program started to kick into this whole new advent of Honda's engineering systems and finesse and putting together manufacturing cars product. So again, another commission piece for a friend here who has a Toyota, wanted that thing done as a gift. And we put a little bit of a Toyota LMP car, Rolex 24 piece on top of that to kind of put a little bit of accent to it. So there we are there. Individual in town here is a very big truck enthusiast, and he has an old 1969 C10 series Chevy that he wanted to have done, so that was for his office. So that's another commission piece. A lot of line drawing work behind it, a lot of photographic reference back and forth and conversation to get things done. First, again, this individual purchased a Ram pickup series and wanted to have it done on Design Punk. It was really interesting how he purchased a black Ram and wanted to go with this Design Punk almost riveting piece. It's this camouflaging, a very difficult process to work on. A lot of high contrast graphics, obviously, but all the surface you see in here, all that Design Punk done was the pastel, just blending things in and softening things off. Interesting, I sent this out to him, he loved it, and he sent it back saying, I want to convert this, saying, my military history. So he sent back the images of what he wanted to have done. So from that series, we went from that to this. I'm working on this presently. It's not quite done yet, but he wanted to add some color accents and his Division Unit US. Blue mirrors, door, splitter, some insert pieces, some of the mule graphics here, Navy Medal of Honor, Siemens badge, and all a bunch of stuff I guess he had acquired during the military piece. So that's being worked on now, another same process. And then again, very recently here, this is a Corvette C8 done for an individual who came in last about a week or so ago. Wanted to have something done for his father's birthday, or not his birthday party. He just purchased a C8. He wanted to give him, pardon me, let's move this over just a touch. He wanted to present him with a sketch of his new purchase, so we just did that for him. And when it was all done, this is the original. Oh no, it's a copy. The original now is out, having itself being matted and framed. He wants to give that to his father as a gift. He's been a long-time enthusiast for Corvette. This is the first C8 Spider he bought, so that's the piece we did for him. And last but not least, you already see this. I've seen this one, Stuart. This is at Lagonda, LG45 Rapide. So that's in progress as well. So again, thank you for the patience in wrapping it up here. Doug and Stuart, thank you for joining me today. Any questions from you guys at the end there? A pretty good run here of some recent commission work, and I'm sure yet some kind of Rapide indeed. Yeah, that thing was it's a beautiful piece of equipment. An interesting process too. A very storied history in this Lagonda series. So thanks very much, Stuart, for joining. Hope you're doing well. And Doug, thank you so much for joining me again for the time period here today. A little bit of a different venue. Again, just some very interesting commission work, and there's more to come. I just picked up some things today from individuals walking through the hallways in the office and say, hey, could you do this or that? Yeah, I just picked up another couple of commissions this morning, which is interesting. For those of you, please, for Stuart, and nothing wrong with taking a day to look back. Gotta smell it. Yeah, you do. That's a good point, Stuart. Yeah, I came back, and what I'm amazed at is the number of pieces I've done over the course of years. I mean, if I went back through the history of commission pieces, my God, we'd be here for days. I've been very fortunate in that respect. But which brings up a good point, and I'm not being selfish here, so please don't misunderstand the context. If you know of individuals who would like to have a piece of work done or a commission piece done of a vehicle or whatever it might be, please let them know I'm available to do that. I would love to be a part of that process. I'm very fair price-wise. I'll work with you in terms of putting it all together, what you want to have done. That'd be great. How can you be selfish on your channel? Makes no sense. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point, Stuart. Thank you. But I don't want to get to a place where all of a sudden people look at it like, oh, gee, that's ridiculous. I'm very fair-minded when it comes to things like that. For this reason, I feel like it's an honor for me to work with people who want something done, to look at my work and consider it worthy enough to go in their home or their office or wherever they're going to place it. I really appreciate that. So if you know of individuals who want that work done, Doug and Stuart, please pass the word along. I'd love to be able to be a part of that process and working with you guys. So once again, all the very best, gang. Great to have you on the board today. Thank you for being patient with me. We're going to pick up the sticks on Thursday with another presentation. I might kind of switch gears and go into some very simple, fundamental proportional studies on some things we're working on here, just to kind of go through like a review process on horizon line, how to set up leading edges, how to build volume. I want to go back and refresh a little bit here because I've had some feedback on some things done over the course of time that we want to go back and maybe look at that one more time. So we're going to take a little bit of a different approach, very, very quick ballpoint pen sketches maybe on Thursday, just to get a format down, and we'll build from there. So once again, gang, all the very best to you. Thanks for joining in today. Please feel free to visit my website at drcontrast.com. Also, if you have anything you want me to work on or things you'd like to see, please feel free to give me a note here at jim@drcontrast.com. That's my email address. I'm always looking forward to getting things done here from that point of view. And a couple of announcements coming up here. We are putting together the pieces now for some current, the most recent things we've done for the Manticore series. We're looking at some prints being done for the both the dropship and the landed version of the Manticore we did some months ago. And also, really beginning to look at, for example, this the G12 retrofit we worked on over the last 3 or 4 sessions. I think we made some real progress in getting that G12 kind of tuned in and kind of spiked a little bit and refreshed it a little bit. And I think it was a nice, I'm glad we went back to that, because I think some of the original studies that we had done on the G12, as I said, not to be redundant, but to be redundant, some of the original origin G12 we kept, and we kind of channeled a little bit and kind of modified such to kind of a more of a GT process. But when all said and done, it was still a little bit on the static side. So when I went back and looked at the history of that whole sketch, of that whole series, yeah, there were some nice things done, but it didn't have the same snap that it should have. So we went back in over the last 3 weeks, and went right back into some really interesting gestures in terms of what does it look like from the front three-quarter, rear three. How can we change certain things to get more of a GT look to it? So we've accomplished a lot of good stuff there. So I think that's what I'm looking forward to. And maybe when that gets finished out, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up a couple of nice full color prints and sketches of both the front three-quarter and rear three-quarter for the G12 series. So we'll keep you posted on that as well. And once again, cannot thank you enough, Stuart, for joining forces today. I hope you're well. And Doug, you as well. Hope you and your family are doing well. And please stay tuned on this coming Thursday. We'll do a couple of little simplified things, but it might be a little bit, for me, it's going to be very informative. I'm going to go back and review some things because of the base of some of the feedback I'm getting from some of the kids looking at the program. So once again, gang, all the very best to you. Have a great day. And we'll look forward to seeing you on Tuesday at 2 o'clock, same time. And I always close with this because I think it's the most important part of the whole process. Never forget to remember to dare to be great, because you are. All the best, gang. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye now.